Well, folks, hell has frozen over, blue hell at least, today here at Sporting Park in Kansas City. Welcome to MLSsoccer.com's Playoff Central presented by Samsung Galaxy. I'm your host for the day, Jason Seguini, and with me, Andrew Wiebe and Simon Borg. And we are braving the cold weather out here in Kansas City. It is freezing out here, Simon.
The temperature here on our thermometer at least says 20 degrees, but that's not counting the wind chill.
No, that's in the sunlight, too, so
yeah.
It is much, much colder.
And that is actually a thermometer, not a deer clock, which is what it looks like. But we're going to have some fun today. We have a lot of things lined up on the show. We have special guests. We have people who are going to be joining us. But the first things first, guys, the big game today, MLS Cup, 4 p.m. Eastern time on ESPN. You can also see it on Unimas in Spanish. If you're in Canada, it's TSN2 and RDS as well in French. This is the big show, guys. We have two exciting teams, two teams that have played well all season. They each finished second in their respective division, but they've really turned it up here now in the playoffs. Real Salt Lake and Sporting Kansas City. These teams each looking for their second MLS championship today.
Yeah, Jason, it's a little bit of deja vu for Kansas City, actually. You remember 2 weeks ago, similar temperatures.
Yep.
They got the job done 2-1. They'll hope that happens this time around. They want to cement that legacy after 3 very, very good seasons.
But they're going to be going up against some tough competition in Real Salt Lake. For my money, they've been playing the best soccer in these playoffs, and they've knocked out some tough competition. Plus, they're playing for their manager, Jason Kreis. We know his contract expires at the end of the year, and a lot of rumors that after 6 years at the helm, he's going to be leaving.
Yeah, a lot of storylines to cover, and we'll cover them all in this show, getting you ready for MLS Cup. Guys, we expect this stadium to be packed. We've seen the atmosphere here. It's phenomenal. It's one of the best in MLS. We expect the 36th consecutive shutout today, over 21,000 expected here. And it's really going to cap off what has been a huge year in soccer here in Kansas City, which included a phenomenal event, the All-Star Game, which we all loved until the whistle blew. Then it didn't go so well for MLS. Then, of course, the final game of the Hex for the U.S. The final home game was played here as well. It's been a huge year, and Kansas City soccer, Andrew, you're someone who's been around Kansas City soccer for a long time. It has come a very long way.
Yeah, a very, very long way, Jason. I remember 3 or 4 years ago, just a little ways that way, we were doing post-game interviews in a bathroom next to urinals, and now look at this place. It is gorgeous. As you said, they sell it out. Tickets, standing room tickets for this game. Triple figures. They are going to pack this place like sardines. It's going to be all Sporting Blue.
But for all the fans that come here, and tip of the cap to them, they are dedicated. They don't take the field. And Sporting Kansas City has been in this spot before where with all the home field advantage they have, they've not been able to win the big one here. Now, they've advanced, and we've kind of forgot about that in these playoffs, but the pressure's going to be on today.
Well, guys, a comment on the Sporting Kansas City crowd and what is the culture that has happened here. Yesterday, we did a player roundtable with Brad Evans from the Seattle Sounders, along with Omar Gonzalez and Dax McCarty. And I asked them about Kansas City at the end, and Brad Evans had a lot of really good things to say about it, saying that it's really a model for what a lot of MLS franchises should use. And that's a lot coming from a guy who plays in Seattle in front of 40,000 people every week. So plenty to talk about. Obviously, the crowd is going to be a big factor here. But we want to know what you guys are thinking about out on social media. Our own Sam Yarrick is here. She is braving the cold as well, although she stole my blanket, so she's a little less cold than me. She is going to be taking questions on social media. You can tweet using the hashtag MLS Cup, and she'll get your questions and comments and whatnot into our show. We're also going to have former U.S. national teamer Corey Gibbs on the show joining us for the second half when we reveal the lineups. And, of course, Katie Witham is out here in the tunnel getting interviews with players, GMs, whoever she can find. We'll have plenty from her throughout the show as well. Guys, want to turn our attention now to Real Salt Lake first. We mentioned there are a bunch of storylines going on with this team, but it's funny when you think back to the beginning of the season. We were all talking rebuilding. It's a rebuilding year for Real Salt Lake. What are they going to be able to do? They lost major players, guys who were major contributors. Jamison Olave was a defender of the year. You have Fabian Espindola, who is a starting forward. Also Will Johnson, a key midfielder. And throw in Johnny Steele, and that's 27 of their goals from 2012 that were out the door. How are they going to do it? How bad are they going to be this season? They're playing here in MLS Cup.
Yeah, look, the system is the star in Salt Lake. We all knew that. We weren't sure if it would translate to this season when you lost that talent. But they went out and they went through every avenue possible. You look at the draft. Devin Sandoval, a great draft pick for them, has helped get them to the cusp of MLS Cup. Also, international. Olmes Garcia, a young striker who got timely goals for this team. And then via trade, Joao Plata in Toronto, maybe not as appreciated, but he comes and gets it done. And the most incredible thing to me, guys, is not that they got those moves right. It's that they got moves right 3-4 years ago. Yep. Bringing in a guy like Luis Gil, you take your time with him, you make sure you develop him correctly. All of a sudden, he's a guy that's perhaps on the cusp of the national team, just 20 years old in that veteran midfield, filling in seamlessly for Will Johnson. We saw how good he played this year as an MVP candidate. And then Chris Schuler, what can you say about Schuler this postseason? Timely goals, timely defending. The injuries really robbed him of a 2013 regular season, but he has been magnificent. Both those bets paid off in spades for Jason Kreis.
But we have to credit Jason Kreis and Garth Lagerwey, the head coach and GM. They are the brain trust of this Real Salt Lake team, and it's no wonder that teams around MLS are in pursuit of them, and you hear their names come up whenever there are openings around the league. They work so well together, and what they've done is they've established an identity at Salt Lake, a playing style established by Jason Kreis, and then Garth Lagerwey goes out and finds the players who exactly fit that style. And when you can do that, and when you have patience, like they've shown with some players, giving them years to develop, then you're going to have a good formula, and they're set up here to be successful now for years to come if they can maintain some kind of consistency in the coaching ranks if Kreis leaves.
All right, we're going to have a lot more on that story, but right now, one of those players who does fit into the system and has done well is Ned Grabavoy. He's been a key contributor for Salt Lake this year, and he is with Katie Witham.
Thanks, Jason. Here with Ned Grabavoy. And Ned, the talk surrounding Real Salt Lake this week leading up to this game has all been about Jason Kreis, your head coach, and where he may be next season. Has that been a distraction, or how have you guys as players handled that?
I don't think it's been a distraction. There's question marks with everyone within our club. Players will be out of contract at the end of the season. We've seen players move in and out every single season, so that's nothing new in this business, and that's just, it's just the nature of the business.
All right, getting set for this game today. Between these two clubs in particular, there's a lot of animosity. 17 yellow cards, 2 red cards just within the last 4 matches. What are you expecting going into this one?
I think it'll be a physical match, considering it's a final. But I think both teams can play pretty good soccer. It's obviously a cold day. The conditions are the same for both teams. But I think when the game settles, we need to look to possess the ball and try to create chances in the final third.
Finally, Ned, coming into this one, the MLS Best 11 was announced, and surprisingly, no RSL players. Does that give you guys a little extra motivation going out there today at all?
No, not really. We'll take an MLS Cup today. If we get that, we won't even worry about the Best 11. Never have, never will.
All right, and you mentioned a little bit of what you want to see from your guys when you're out there on the field, but specifically early in this game today, what are the keys for Real Salt Lake?
Well, I think it's going to be high tempo right from the opening whistle. And so I think, the first 15, 20 minutes, it could be a bit sloppy. Look to not make any mistakes. It might be a bit more direct from both teams. But like I said, when the game settles, there's going to be moments in the game when the game slows down, and that's when we need to create chances in the final third and finish our chances.
All right, I appreciate the time. Good luck today.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Jason, we'll send it back over to you guys.
Talking about finishing the chances, and that's an interesting topic for Real Salt Lake. When you look at their lineup, we expect Alvaro Sabrillo to be back as a starter now because Devin Sandoval is knocked up. We thought the question coming in was going to be, should they start Sabrillo or Sandoval? They don't really seem to have the option here. It looks like Sandoval is going to have to play in this cold weather in his first game back from injury.
Well, Sabrillo, Sandoval is almost certainly not going to be a part of this match, at least in the starting lineup. Yet to see those yet. But I think that's fine for Real Salt Lake. Look, 50 games and Sabrillo scores a goal. They've won 36 of them. 12 goals in 15 games this year. He is, bar none, the best finisher on the field today if he starts. No player, if you're Real Salt Lake, do you want to have a chance than Alvaro Sabrillo. Now, Simon, the one thing you may miss is that dogged pressure. Sandoval really showed this postseason. His work rate outstrips that of the Costa Rican.
And that's why I wouldn't underestimate what difference this change is going to make to Real Salt Lake. Devin Sandoval, with that work rate, he kind of set the tone for the team and how hard they've been working in these last playoff games. And it's been exceptional, their work rate. Plus, Saborío's coming off an injury, a muscle injury, a hip flexor specifically, and you never know how that muscle reacts to this kind of cold, and he hasn't played in over a month. How do we know what his match fitness is like? So keep an eye on Saborío in this game.
Look, RSL knows about injuries in championship games. Last time they were in the championship, Javier Morales went out after that David Beckham tackle. So I wonder now, you wonder who is that guy who's going to step in and potentially play a big role, and it could be Olmes Garcia, who you talked about. That could be the guy who has to come in and end up playing a big portion of this game, especially if it goes into overtime.
Look, there's a lot of options. We talked about it. You mentioned Olmes Garcia. That's your speed option. That's if you see that maybe Sporting KC is pushing that high line, leaving options in back. Finley will definitely exploit those from the start. He wants to get in the channels. If you think combination play is going to open up Kansas City, João Plata would be a great option against this team. He's quick, he'll draw you free kicks, and he's got a great shot from distance, Simon.
But you mentioned that João Plata and Olmes Garcia, they're used to different kind of temperatures, and you wonder if this cold gets in their heads in any way. But I would highlight Robbie Finley.
Spent time at Toronto. He knows what cold weather is like.
Does he like to play in it, though? That doesn't mean he likes it,
That's
all
the
right?
issue. And then Robbie Finley, though, is the guy I think you need to key on. If you look at how effective, he hasn't been outstanding man-of-the-match type performances from Robbie Finley, but he's been effective running through the channels, and those runs behind the fullbacks, you figure he's going to get a couple in this game with how high the Kansas City fullbacks push up. So look at him, and if he has that speed, if he's getting in behind, that's danger for Kansas City.
Look, you saw Robbie Finley scoring that clutch goal in the last time that they were in MLS Cup.
Yep.
The question with him is basically finishing ability. I mean, you mentioned it. Saborío's the clutch finisher. Finley's a guy who can get into dangerous spots, doesn't always finish his chances, but he did do well against Portland. So you hope that if you're Real Salt Lake, that he's at the top of his game today when you need him.
Yeah, he's certainly your best option up there. I think he's going to have some luck doing that too, because if he can get in behind Aurelien Collin, you mentioned those fullbacks. Collin and Beasler are going to be the guys that are going to have to chase that. Collin is susceptible to overcommitting. If he chases him out there, all of a sudden you've got Saborío able to make that near post run, able to make a deke and come back to the penalty spot. And as I said, if he gets the ball in those areas, you're in big, big trouble.
Although I think he would attack Matt Beasler's side of the field, the other central defender, because Beasler, not the fleetest of foot. He's not slow, but he's not fast either, and I think Finley can beat him in a foot race.
And here's the other thing. If they can get him behind, if they can create that space in the middle, those runners out of that RSL midfield, some of the best in the league at finishing when they get that opportunity.
You're talking about Ned Grabavoy, Luis Gil mainly.
Javier Morales, do not forget him.
Javier Morales scored a bunch of goals for Real Salt Lake. And guys, talk a lot about Real Salt Lake, but you have to talk about Sporting Kansas City here as well. Peter Vermees has done a fantastic job with this team. You know, you credited Garth Lagerwey and Jason Kreis, and at the same time, you have to look at what Peter Vermees has done here in Kansas City and say he's really got a lot of things right. They've been competitive at a high level for a few years now.
Yeah, I don't even know if competitive is the right word, Jason. No coach in MLS, bar Bruce Arena, has more points over the last 3 seasons. He's also tied in wins with Siggy Schmidt and Kreis. They have been at the very, very top of their profession for these 3 seasons. This is the reward, the opportunity to get an MLS Cup in their own building.
And we credit Jason Kreis and Real Salt Lake, how they've established an identity and followed through with it. So has Kansas City. Peter Vermees has established an identity, stuck with it, and although they've had some failings in the big game late in the season, so has Salt Lake, by the way, they haven't gone away from that thinking and their identity, and they've kept it. And because of that, that's why you have the connection with the fans. The fans know what kind of commitment, what kind of game, what kind of style to expect here, and they love it here.
Peter Vermees, if they were to win the championship today, would be the second head coach in MLS history to win it as a player. Of course, he won in 2000, and then as a head coach. The other one, who knows it?
Peter Novak.
Beat me to it.
That was an easy one. All right, Peter Novak did it against this Kansas City team in 2004 when he won it as head coach with DC United. Guys, plenty more to talk about as we go on, but want to throw it to the tunnel right now. One of those people that Peter Vermees got right was drafting Dom Dwyer. He is now their starting forward for the most important game that they are going to play. He's with Katie Witham.
Well, Dom, moments away from this MLS Cup game. This is your second championship this year. You played with Orlando City SC, scored 4 goals in that final game. What do you need to do to bring that out today?
Just, go out there, enjoy it, enjoy the occasion. The stadium's already getting full. And you know, we're looking forward to it. It's going to be a fun day.
It's going to be a fun day, and it's going to be a tough game. When you look at both of these clubs, the midfield in particular, RSL has a tough one. You guys have some good guys going up there. How important is that battle going to be today?
Oh yeah, it's going to be, you know, it's two quality teams going against each other. So, you know, we're looking forward to it, and, you know, it wouldn't be a final without two good teams. So, you know, it's going to be fun, and it's going to be one to remember.
One to remember. You've got it here at home in Kansas City with the support of your fans. But Dom, as you look at this game, what are the keys in your mind for Sporting to come out here and have some early success?
You know, just do what we've been doing all year. Just keep it tight and be smart, and, you know, just finish off our chances when we need to.
Dom, appreciate the time. Good luck today.
All right, thank you.
Guys, we'll send it back over to you.
Dwyer, he's really established himself, I guess, now as the forward. I mean, it seems like the forward position in Kansas City has been in flux all season. They've tried different combinations. I mean, generally it works, right? They finished in second in their division, but Dwyer now is kind of the guy. Do you think he's the right guy out here, and can he get it done on this big stage?
Certainly today, I think he's the right guy. He's shown it over the course of this postseason. Peter Remise, Simon, you talked about what he likes. He likes forwards that pressure that back line, that run, that are dogged, that are bulldogs when it comes to 50-50 challenges. Dwyer is that man. We have not seen the finishing, though. We have not seen consistent finishing from him in a Sporting KC uniform. This postseason, he's starting to get it done. But you said it, Jason, there are so many options here. If it doesn't work, he can go just about anywhere.
He can, but in a one-game final, as this one is today, can you afford to have a couple chances fall to your forwards and them not finishing it? I don't think you can. So that's why I've been on this train of wanting to have Claudio Bieler, who's a designated player, a big name signing for them. He's stuck on the bench, has been stuck on the bench for several games now. But he saved them with a big goal during these playoffs against the New England Revolution, and he's their top scorer. He has 12 goals this year, 11 in league play, and 1 in other competitions. He is your best finisher. He's an expert player. He knows what runs to make in the box. Look, they're going to have to go to him late if Dwyer's getting chances and not finishing. And by the way, let's also remember CJ Sapong, who will probably be lined up on the left. He's going to get in positions as well, but he's also not the cleanest of finishers. So can Kansas City afford to give up chances?
Well, I'll tell you this. I mean, you look at Dom Dwyer's track record this season, scoring 4 goals in the USL Championship. He is a guy who is clutch enough, I guess, right? But when you look at it, it seems to be setting up from Peter Remise almost like a boxing match, right? Like, you're going to put your guys out there, you're going to get the defense tired, you're going to get the workers out there, and then if you need it, you have Claudio Bieler to come in when they're softened up a little later in the game. Is that the way you see it working out?
Yeah,
yeah, go ahead.
I certainly think so, but I think one thing you didn't mention is set pieces. If we're talking about a boxing match, that is where the real contact is going to go down. They want Aurelien Collin up in that 6-yard box. They want him smashing heads with Chris Schuler. That is going to be a huge matchup to watch in this game. That may be where the goals come from.
The issue with bringing on a Claudio Bieler if you're trailing late in a game is that Real Salt Lake, if they have a lead, they are so well organized and they get numbers behind the ball. There are no spaces for you to get a ball in the box and to allow Bieler to make a run. So by then, you can say it's too late at that point. So that's my concern if I'm looking at it from a Kansas City side. Yes, Dwyer has finished in the USL. That's 3rd Division soccer. And he did have a great goal in the playoffs on that feed by Benny Feilhaber. He showed a great touch there. But he's going to have to do it in the big spot today. Let's see if he can deliver.
All right, guys, we're going to head to the tunnel with Katie Witham for another interview with a guy who's familiar with both of these teams. And I think you're really going to enjoy what Katie dug up for Garth Lagerwey.
I'm here with the Real Salt Lake GM right now, but Garth, very familiar with both Sporting Kansas City and Real Salt Lake. In fact, we dug up a picture of you, 1996, in goal for the Wizards, and I think it's safe to say that Kyle Beckerman got his hairstyle from you.
Hey, I wish. I think Kyle's a lot more fastball than I am, and I tell you, I wish I weighed as little as I did back then. We had a lot of fun back then. Really enjoyed my time in Kansas City, and it's neat to be back here for the final.
Absolutely. Well, it wasn't just the hair, the dreads and the beads that we saw, but it was also the beard, and we were wondering, was that throughout the season or was that a playoff beard? Because it's impressive. Yep,
playoff beard. That was you know, when we won the first round away to Dallas and came back and lost in shootouts to LA. Still heartbreaking, but that was a good Wizards team, and Preki on that team, a bunch of other guys that want to be big in Kansas City's future. So we had a lot of fun, and always felt honored to be an original Wizard.
Absolutely. Okay, let's talk a little bit more specific about this season. Coming into this year, a lot of people thought Real Salt Lake would be rebuilding. Instead, you guys just reloaded. What were the challenges, though, in maintaining that core group of guys from your standpoint?
We really needed the older guys to accept a good group of younger guys coming in. The guys that we moved out, Olave and Espindola and Johnson, they were very much a part of who we were, our identity. So I give a lot of credit to the veteran players in our locker room for accepting some of the new guys. I think we did a good job identifying talent. We got good players in. And then I think lastly, I think our coaches did the best job that they've done. We've had a 6-year run here making the playoffs. For me, Jason did his best job ever this year.
Speaking of the coaches and your head coach, Jason Kreis, that has been the buzz in the newspapers, the media all week. I know you guys have made it known you want him back here. Do you have any sense that maybe a second MLS Cup, taking home a win today, will either keep him or hurt the situation? Any sense at all?
You know, I don't know. We've been dealing with this for 6 months. Jason's been my friend for 25 years, and we'll sit down after the game. We'll figure it out.
What would a second MLS Cup, taking that home back to the state of Utah, mean to not only obviously the state, but your fan base that's been so strong all season?
It validates everything we've done. If you get bookend championships 2009, 2013, now it's not just a good regular season team. It's not just that we've reached 4 finals. It's that we're champions, and that means everything in the world.
Absolutely. Garth, appreciate the time. I bet you're wishing maybe you had some more of that facial hair and long hair to help keep you warm today, but we'll be okay.
Thanks, Katie.
Guys, back over to you.
I bet Andrew wishes he could grow facial hair too on a day like today. Right,
look, you give me a couple weeks, maybe I'll come up with something.
All right, guys, I want to get your take on this Jason Kreis situation. Obviously, nobody's going to give anything away. Nobody's going to say anything at this point. Do you think a win or a loss here changes it either way?
I don't think it has any bearing at all on his decision. My opinion, I think he's probably already decided what he's going to do. He and RSL have been having talks, as Lagerwey said, for about 6 months. The contract has been on the table. He's got a successful team. I have to assume he is settled in Utah, but I think he knows what he wants to do, and I don't think win or loss really changes it.
And if I had to make a bet today as to what he does, I think he leaves, and this is why. Earlier this week in the press conference, Jason Kreis was asked about how he approaches this game, knowing that it could be his last. And then he went through the litany of matches here. He thought the last regular season game at home would be the last game he'd coach. And then he went through all the home games. He thought each of those could be the last game he coaches for Salt Lake. So if that's still in your head, if I had to bet, I mean, there are other ways you can speak about the situation if maybe in your heart you still had it that you wanted to stay here. So I'd be shocked if he ended up staying.
All right, that's the detective at work. Simon Borg trying to get to the bottom of it.
Borg.
We are going to throw it to a couple more detectives who are going to break down this game a little bit. Dan Hayek and Matt Doyle with the scouting report.
Hello everybody and welcome to this Scouting Report. I'm Dan Hayek here with Matt Doyle, and today we're previewing what else but MLS Cup. Matt, let's just jump right into our nuts and bolts. This is a final, and oftentimes the guy that captures the moment is one of the playmakers from either side. We have a couple of playmakers in this one that are on form. Javier Morales for RSL and Benny Feilhaber for Kansas City. Are the D-mids going to be able to contain these two players?
Yeah, well, I mean, Kyle Beckerman and Uri Rosell will have the hardest jobs on the field. Nothing new for them. D-mid is the hardest position to play on the field. The thing is, you never do it alone against a great player. It's not just going to be Beckerman versus Feilhaber or Rosell versus Morales. It has to happen within the scope of the team. And it's hard against both these guys. For RSL, it's because Morales drifts. He will go all the way to the touchline, which we saw against Portland, and play make from there. And so the D-mid and the other midfielders are left with the decision, well, do I track him all the way out there? Do I try to pass him off to a fullback who's pushed up? And that can lead to miscommunications and gaps. RSL masterful at exploiting them. The other side, it's a little different with Feilhaber. He often drops deeper to make plays, almost like a regista. Really, really fun to watch both these guys when they're playing well. It's about time for both of them.
Now, the one and only time we saw these teams match up in the regular season, it wasn't about these playmakers. It was about set pieces. Right. Each of the 3 goals scored in that game were off of set pieces. That brings us to the WTF stat. The number is 5. Of 13 goals scored between these two teams in the playoffs so far, 5 of them have been off
What's
set
that
pieces.
percentage, Dan?
That's 38.4, just so you know.
He did that in his headphones.
I did just now. Now, are set pieces going to factor into this game?
I would be shocked if they didn't. Since Chris Schuler has gotten healthy, RSL has been an elite set piece team on both sides of the ball, and they absolutely annihilated the Timbers in the conference championship. Of course, they have a couple of guys who can deliver it. Morales does a really good job. João Plata might be even better when he comes in, and he's a very good.
We've seen Morales score a couple times.
Right, exactly. So when he comes in at the end to change things up from the run of play, it also gives him a different look on set pieces. For KC, they've been one of the 2 best teams over the last couple of years on set pieces. They have Aurelien Collin when he pushes up. He's one of the 2 or 3 best targets in the league, but they also have CJ Sapong. They also have Graham Zusi, who when he doesn't take set pieces can pick up the second ball.
Absolutely.
Both these teams play on corners. They play a zonal scheme with man principles as well. So Schuler on Collin, that will be the big matchup every time there's a dangerous restart.
Now, the one and only guy heading into this game that has scored previously in an MLS Cup is Robbie Finley, so why not focus on him for our man-to-man? Finley versus Collin.
What RSL does differently is how they get their width. They don't get it from wide midfielders. They don't really even get it from their fullbacks early. They have Finley or Plata, if he's in, flare out to the sides, try to get in behind overlapping fullbacks, and of course, nobody overlaps the way Kansas City overlaps. Chance Myers will spend most of this game in the attacking half, even if they don't have the ball. So that will give a lot of gaps. Finley makes those diagonal runs and tries to get onto balls from either Morales or Beckerman or Ned Grabavoy or Sebastian Velasquez or Luis Gil. They hit those spaces really, really well. Collin's going to have to be very active and very aware, not just vertically pushing into the play, which he does so well, but going out to the sidelines, tracking Finley, making sure that he gets to the ball before Finley turns it into something dangerous. If Collin can't do that, and he's not the most mobile guy, but if he can't do that, it's going to be tough for KC to dictate the pace of the game.
All right, well, we'll find out on Saturday if it comes down to Finley or the playmakers or set pieces. It kicks off at 4 p.m. Eastern. You can watch it on ESPN and Unimas.
Well, guys, Matt Doyle agreeing with you guys that it will be tough. Robbie Finley running the channels is going to be the potential difference maker in this game. We'll have to watch out for that. Plenty more to come on this show, including a player panel, which we had yesterday, a discussion with Omar Gonzalez of the LA Galaxy, Brad Evans of the Seattle Sounders, and Dax McCarty of the New York Red Bulls. But right now, we are going to give you a little taste of MLS Cup Week with Sam Yarrick, who experienced everything that there was to experience this week in Kansas City at MLS Cup, and she put this package together for you guys.
Thursday kicked off with MLS Works in Sporting Kansas City unveiling the renovations they made to the Ronald McDonald House. MLS Commissioner Don Garber and Sporting KC players were there for the dedication ceremony.
It's pretty amazing when you come down here and see how the room have changed in such a short time. The kids need some positive energy, and this room here is full of positive energy.
What was a basement kind of run down is now a beautiful playroom with high-tech video games and screens and all sorts of other interactive activities branded with Sporting Kansas City logos and the like. I'm so proud of what the Victory Project has done. That's the community relations group within Sporting Kansas City, and so proud of our group at MLS Works.
Later that day, the Chicago Fire's Mike McGee was named the 2013 Volkswagen MLS MVP. I caught up with Mike and asked him about winning the award in his hometown in front of friends and family.
I mean, it's huge. You know, I think it's a big reason why I got the award as well. You know, obviously getting a chance to play in front of my family every game, and knowing, you know, I need to put on a show for them definitely helped.
Then on Friday morning, fans gathered at Sporting Park to watch the 2014 FIFA World Cup draw with MLS and U.S. men's national team players. It was an enjoyable experience for all.
Yeah, it was neat. It was a great setup we had here, a really cool event. And to be with a few of the guys was neat. It was kind of going through that moment together was pretty special, and to discuss it afterwards as well.
obviously this is my first experience being around anything like this. So obviously, you know, watching from home before and just being here with all these guys and you know, the media attention that it gets is just, it's crazy. It's like nothing else I've been a part of or I've seen. So, you know, a special experience and one that I'll always remember.
On Friday night, MLS hosted a party in the Power and Lights District to cap off a great week and spend one last night out with the Cup. Well, it's definitely been an eventful week here in Kansas City. I did it all, had a great time. But one thing's for sure, fans are ready for this MLS Cup. They're taking to Twitter like it is their job. Even Kai Kamara is tweeting from England, to my family sporting KC, my hometown KC. I want to wish you all best of luck today in the MLS Cup. You deserve the moment. And guys, the big thing going on Twitter, I think the lineups just broke. They are ready to hear your thoughts on the lineup.
All right, Sam. Sam has the good seat next to MLS Cup. Make sure you put your gloves on, though, when you touch it. I know that's the rule, guys. We are going to get into the lineups, and we're going to start with Real Salt Lake, guys. We know what to expect from Real Salt Lake, especially when it comes to the goalkeeper, and that is Nick Raimondo in the net. He is solid as ever, always holding it down for Real Salt Lake in the back.
Yeah, arguably for me, one of the best goalkeepers of all time in MLS. Listen, you got to love this guy. He always comes to perform, and he's going to hold it down for Real Salt Lake tonight. He's going to be instrumental for that back line.
By the way, hi, Corey.
How you doing? So much for Jason for the introduction.
Oh, yeah, sorry about that. I forgot that you haven't been standing here because I've been watching you. So Nick Raimondo in goal for Kansas City. Corey, take us through the rest of Salt Lake's lineup.
Well, we look at the back four from right to left. Tony Beltran, Nat Borches in the middle. Chris Schuler, for me, who has stepped in from that fill-in role, played well enough now, who's the foundation of this back line over Nat Borches, and he's going to be instrumental for their defense. Chris Wingert on the left-hand side, that diamond in the midfield, which is going to be huge for Real Salt Lake in the creativity that they hold. Kyle Beckerman holding down the fork. Lewis Gill and Ned Grabavoy, for me, the Iron Man, clocked in the most minutes during the regular season for Real Salt Lake. He's going to be instrumental on both sides of the pitch, offensively and defensively. And Morales, who's going to be the creator, joining in the attack with Sabarillo, who's coming in for the injured Sandoval. And, of course, for me, Robbie Finley. Maybe not just because of the goals that he scored, but what he's going to cause in terms of his work rate. He's going to play up top and with Sabarillo.
So, Corey, I didn't give you a proper introduction. Corey Gibbs, former U.S. national teamer and MLS player. I know, Corey, you reside in Florida. What do you think of this weather we got here?
Well, Jason, I'm leaving 85-degree weather to come in 15-degree weather. But listen, it's no different from my playing days in Germany. You know, I went in Hamburg. We're playing when it's snowing down. But listen, the biggest thing with this weather, it's when your feet go cold. When they go numb, your brain goes numb. You lose everything mentally. That's going to be the biggest thing for all these players out there. On the team aspect of it, I think it's going to affect Real Salt Lake more. I think in terms of the style of play and this pitch being so hard, that possession style of play is not going to be there for them as much as they would like.
But they do have underground heating here. They say it's not going to be an issue, and they're not going to water the field because the last time they did it in the last playoff game, ice actually formed on the surface. So Peter Vermees, the coach for Kansas City, has said he's not going to water it.
They have the heating, but the big question is, does Kansas City really want to turn on the heating in favor of Real Salt Lake? That's the biggest thing.
Yeah, it is believed that it would be a little more of an advantage for Kansas City for the field to be a little bit rougher as they want to play a little bit more physical style in this game. Switching over to Sporting Kansas City, of course, in nets for them, the White Puma, Jimmy Nielsen. No surprises to see him there. He is an experienced veteran.
Thanks, guys. We'll call in moments away from MLS Cup right.
Kansas City. So Jimmy Nielsen holding it down in goal for Kansas City. Simon, take us through the rest of their lineup.
He has a familiar foursome in front of him, right to left, Myers, Beasler, Collin, Sinovic. They're well established. Then in midfield, it's a threesome that's worked in the midfield. We're talking about Oriol Rosell, who sits back deepest, and in front of him, Benny Feilhaber and Paulo Nagamura. Nagamura making strong runs out of midfield, and Benny Feilhaber, they want him to create that, to come up with a moment of genius. And then the three up front. And you have CJ Sapong on the left. He's going to give headaches to Salt Lake all day. Zusi, the national teamer, on the right. And then leading the charge, Dom Dwyer. Diminutive, but spunky center forward.
Guys, when you look at this lineup, is there somewhere that you think Sporting has maybe an advantage over Real Salt Lake. Simon, is there some place on the field where you look at this Sporting lineup and you say, you know what, this is where they're going to hurt them?
Well, I think if Paulo Nagamura can harass Kyle Beckerman, I think that could be a key in this game. Kyle Beckerman, he's the guy, as Corey showed us, who sits deep in that midfield for Salt Lake. And he recovers the ball, and he now sprays the ball and makes that next pass. If he's under pressure and can't make a clean pass, Salt Lake will never get that possession game started. And so Nagamura, if he can harass Beckerman, that's the key matchup for me.
All right, there's plenty to watch in this match. The crowd here getting excited as we draw closer to kickoff. I mentioned a couple of times the player roundtable that we had yesterday. Players come into town for MLS Cup to do appearances and whatnot. We got a hold of a couple of them. Simon and I got to spend some time with Omar Gonzalez of the LA Galaxy, Brad Evans of the Seattle Sounders, and Dax McCarty of the New York Red Bulls. Very fun time we had with them. A lot going on. Let's hear some of the best of that interview.
All right, well, MLS Cup brings a lot of big events, and it also brings stars to town. We are happy to be joined by 3 big-time MLS players, including Omar Gonzalez from the LA Galaxy, Dax McCarty from the New York Red Bulls, and Brad Evans from the Seattle Sounders. We have a little bit of a roundtable here. Sam Yarrick is going to be on Twitter working some questions for these guys. Myself and Simon will toss out some subjects. I thought it would be right for us to start with a little video that we made. I just wanted to get your guys' thoughts on this. It's a little compilation of the last few years of...
Who's that guy?
Of one of our top athletes in MLS.
Will you be my hombre? In the big game, we're going to play Roma.
Is that your dad?
Put him in a coma.
Like in 85? Can you send this to me?
Yeah, we're gonna wrap this up for you with a bow and get it out to you. So, not only do we want you guys to react to this, but what we were thinking of when we were watching this little compilation that we put together was the way that it's different. It's kind of different being an athlete these days, it seems, than back in the day when we were younger, growing up. These days, it seems like athletes are just out there, all over the place, including yourself with a saxophone.
Putting myself out there.
Yeah. What is it like for you guys? And do you kind of see it as very different now than maybe it was when we were younger and growing up?
Like you're saying, I think when we were growing up, you're right. You put them on a pedestal, and they just weren't accessible. Right. And I mean, with Seattle, we have especially since Clint's gotten there, it's like we have fans every single day at training looking to get autographs, and it's not like that in any other sport. You couldn't just walk onto a Mariners practice or a Seahawks. You have to be invited, or you have to be on some special list. But I don't think we think of ourselves as the footballs and the basketballs. You know what I mean? It's just not the same.
I mean, the internet changed everything. Social media, it changed everything, because when you see an athlete, all you really see of him is an interview he does after a game or during practice when you're pretty serious. You're kind of in that, you have your game face on, and you have to talk about the game, and you have to talk about, tactics, and you have to talk about how you're going to beat the other team. But now, with Twitter and Instagram, people can see what you do outside of the field. And I think that's better for people to kind of get to know you as a person, instead of just saying, oh, well, this is a guy that loses his mind on the field at every ref that he encounters.
Which one is that?
That's me.
Oh.
Yeah, that's me. And so they can see you on the field, but they can also say, oh, on Twitter, when you tweet about what shows you're watching, or, with Brad, Instagram with his dog, people say, oh, he's got a great dog that he loves.
I like him now.
But there's bad with that.
There is bad with that, yeah. I make sure not to post anything, that can get me in trouble, or, he shouldn't be doing that close to a game or something like that, because then the fans can, start questioning your motives and if you really care about what you're doing.
How many tweets or Facebook posts or whatever have you guys had to pull down this year? Have anyone been
None.
censored this year by your team or anything like that?
There was one for me that
And it
was
wasn't
like,
playing
maybe
the
you
sax in your
should
underwear.
take that down, and that was when Landon was on his hiatus, and I posted that one. If you've seen this guy, please call this number. And the number was actually a real number, so
But aside from you guys doing something that maybe you don't want to do, there's also the fans getting back to you and everyone else. Because social media, it just gives everyone an opportunity.
Opens the door.
Opens the door, and they take digs. And as someone who receives his fair share of criticism from fans wishing you all the ill will, it's hard not to let that get to you at times. No?
So you have to know when to get on Twitter. I mean, if you let someone buy you or have a bad game, you just don't go on Twitter sometimes because you don't want to read that stuff.
And then you scroll, really fast.
And then you put a picture of your dog.
Yeah, and then
on
you're
a
good.
Wednesday.
Yeah,
and then
and then everyone forgets about it.
Well, speaking of dogs, sorry, a bunch of people have been tweeting Seahawks wants to know what your favorite dog is. They want to know, all three of you guys.
Mine is definitely a golden retriever because that's what I have. His name's Kodo, and he's a baller.
I will have to say like a lab, some sort of lab. Yellow's my preference, but French Bulldog is, now that I've moved into Manhattan and that I live in the city, they're small, they're fun, they're easy to get around. City dogs are awesome. They don't go to the bathroom on grass, only concrete. It's ridiculous.
Do you pick it up?
It's like I love you, man.
I make my girlfriend pick it up.
Oh, because it is her dog.
It is her dog. It's 55%
dog.
her dog, 45% my dog.
I have 2 dogs. Yeah, I have a mini Australian Shepherd and a Yorkie Bichon.
Can we stop for a second? Like, I have nice, decent pants on, nice pants, jeans, and have you felt those yet?
Are they sweatpants?
They're sweatpants.
They are.
Are you wearing sweatpants?
Those are sweatpants.
Jeans. They're
Wow.
sweatpants
Wow.
jeans.
So I could literally go to
nice.
bed right now.
Oh, I
could go
thought
to
those
sleep
were
in
jeans
these.
I
back
need
there.
those for tomorrow.
Yeah,
Those
they're pretty
pajama jeans?
incognito. Yeah.
Should we get into our boxers right now?
Do you guys wear the same size pants?
It looks like it
It
right
looks
now.
like it right now.
But it would be
If you could pan down there, Troy, if you can get a...
I was going to say, it would be funny to see Omar wearing Dax's pants.
Can I stay like this for the rest of the...
You can do whatever you want. It's open season here. We have a lot of bullet points to get to, Simon. We gotta hit up some more topics. Is there, aside from your own team, what team in MLS do you enjoy watching?
Salt Lake.
Salt Lake. How about
I think
you?
Salt Lake, I thought watching Portland this year was pretty fun. KC's always a good, game to watch. They like the high pressure and, play some good football. And those are
I actually really enjoyed watching New England when I got a chance. I thought they had a good mix of a lot of young, exciting, attacking guys, and playing against them was never fun. But I think they have a very, very good core of young, good attackers, and guys that are going to make a big splash in this league.
Yanks United, this is a question about watching the game. They want to know what it's like for you three to be here as spectators in the game that you would want to be playing in.
It sucks.
Yeah.
It's horrible. That's the thing you wrestle with. Like, do I want to come here and watch the game? And that's something that, as all of us as competitors, we always want to be playing in the biggest games. And so for me, it's just one of those things that you want to come here, you want to soak up the experience, you want to enjoy it, but it's not something where they're going to be playing tomorrow and I'm going to be happy. And like if someone scores, I'm going to be like, oh yeah, like great goal, like. And then when they're celebrating on the field afterward, it's going to be like, all right, congrats to them, but damn.
Now, you guys have been around, obviously, some of the big stars in the league, and I'm just curious if there's one thing, because they experience the sport much differently, the David Beckhams, the Henrys, the Martins, the DPs that come from overseas. They live the game differently, experience, their day-to-day is different. What's one thing that you've taken from them?
The one thing that surprised me the most when I got to New York, and I started, being around Thierry more, was just his attention to detail and the fact that this guy has played, Champions League, he's won World Cups, and now he's coming over to MLS and playing in a newer league with, players that, have played in college and guys that he probably literally would have no idea who they were otherwise. But it's so surprising to see his knowledge about the league and about the players on other teams. And if you're in training one day and you have, Columbus, up next, and he can go through their entire back line and say by name and say, okay, this is his strength, this is his weakness. If you play the ball into my feet, I can do this. Or if you, with this center back, it's better to play it over the top.
What's his scouting report on Omar?
His scouting report on Omar is just meg him at will. His legs
just run
like
right
to be
past
open.
him.
Yeah, just run by him.
We're talking about players and what they do. I'm also interested in the coaches and what you guys pick up from them, because you guys have had the old-timers, if you will, the Ziggy Schmidts, the Arenas, but you also have a taste of now the younger generation, whether it's Klinsmann, you have Petke. What do you notice that the new breed of coaches is doing differently, maybe, than the old school guys?
I guess on the national team side, it's the nutrition part of it that probably wasn't there, 10 years ago, I guess. That's a big to-do, I guess, in camp. Whenever you go in, it's blood testing, it's, what are you eating, what can you eat differently to make you get to that little next level, and that's probably the biggest difference for me. But
yeah, I think these guys have, you know, younger
For me,
guys
I
he
had
works with.
the biggest difference that I saw from, you know, especially Mike in the beginning of the year was just his willingness to adapt to the league and to adapt to, you know, things that he believed in, things that he wanted to do, but things that kind of our players and, you know, who we had kind of said otherwise. So, you know, for example, he wanted to start the season out playing a 4-3-3. And with the player personnel we had, you know, we tried that out for a couple of games, and I think the one thing that really impressed me was that he recognized that this wasn't working well for us. And so he decided, you know, I'm going to play to the strengths of my players, and that adaptability is something that I think, you know, younger coaches really, they have to have.
All right, well, we're wrapping it up from here, but I want to get your predictions on the game tomorrow. So what do you got, Brad?
I think 2-1 Salt Lake.
On the road?
Yeah, on the road. I think they'll do it. It's a tough place to play, but, you know, I think they're the best team, and I think they'll do it.
Dax?
I'm going to say it's going to end regulation 2-2, and I'm going to say Salt Lake will win it in penalties.
All right. Nick, everyone takes Nick Raimondo in a PK shootout, right?
That's true, yeah, definitely. I say 2-1 KC. I just think because they're at home, they're going to have the crowd behind them, and, you know, that's why.
What do you guys think of playing here real quick before we go? I mean, when you think about what it was like to play in Kansas City, if you guys played 5 years ago, you know, before this stadium came, it was kind of awkward. But
awkward? It's terrible.
What it's come to now, I mean, how impressive is the turnaround been here?
It's ridiculous. I mean, this place, you know, it should just be modeled. You know, there's probably 5 or 6 other clubs that should come here and take a page out of rebranding and what they need to do. And it's, I mean, there's only a couple other places like it, and just the fact that it's, you know, it's compact, it's small, but it's rocking, and it's pretty incredible.
It's a different level, and I mean, especially in MLS, you know, you have home field is so important, and they have great fans. You know, I think we saw in World Cup qualifying, we saw whenever Kansas City plays at home, their fans are very engaged, they're very loud. So it's definitely going to be difficult, but Salt Lake's an experienced team. They have guys that have been around for a while now, and so they won't be intimidated by the atmosphere, but you certainly have to think that Kansas City being at home will be a tremendous advantage for them.
All right, guys, thank you very much for joining us, and enjoy the game tomorrow, despite the fact that you're not on the field. Hopefully it's a good time.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
All right, guys, you see the crowd piling in here. A lot of blue, a couple sprinkles of red here and there. The game today, 4 p.m. Eastern time, following our pregame show on ESPN, Unimas, TSN2, and RDS in Canada. The crowd is starting to get excited here, guys. We expect this game, we heard the predictions from those guys. We'll get your predictions in a little while. We expect this game to be a physical affair. If it is physical, one of those key guys who is going to be contributing to that, of course, is going to be Aurelien Collin. And Katie Witham caught up with him earlier.
Thanks, guys. We'll call in moments away from MLS Cup right here in Kansas City. What's your mindset right now?
Right now, be focused and win that cup. All I think about is winning that cup and doing as much as we can to make the fans happy, make the city happy, a win at the end of the game.
You and I have spoken this week. You've talked about what a team Real Salt Lake is coming into this one, what a tough matchup it's going to be. Where's your area of focus today?
Just don't be like too crazy about the event, you know. The most important is keeping the same mentality, the same style of game. We know that we know how to play. When we play that kind of game, we're the best. So just don't be too worried about everything. Focus on the game and do our job.
I know getting that early goal and getting the lead in this game is what you always want to do, but specifically, what are the keys to success here today for Sporting KC?
No, I think that early goal is the best. You know, any team wants this. Most important is being patient when we have to be patient, and just being focused and disciplined. You know, this is a big event for everybody, but don't be too excited about it. Keep our calm, our cold blood, and doing what we know how to do. Yeah, I'm sure everything's going to be okay.
All right, appreciate the time. Stay warm. Good luck.
Thank you very much.
Guys.
All right, guys, we are getting close to kickoff. Sam Yarrick, we've been telling everyone to tweet using the hashtag MLS Cup. What's going on there on social media?
First things first, we need to wish Chance Myers a happy 26th birthday. Could there be a better way to celebrate than to take home the cup tonight, guys?
Hey, speaking of taking home the cup, Sam, they stole your cup. Where did it go?
They took it away from me. I tried to hold on to it, but they said it has to be there ready for a team, so I couldn't keep it any longer. Well, guys, tons of tweets, social media going, a buzz here. Guys want to know who, with these teams behind us now, who is the X factor for each of you out there on the field?
Well, for me, it's got to clearly be Chris Struller for Salt Lake. He's done it so many times in his playoffs, and I think for the finals, it's going to be essential. On the offensive side, getting himself up there on corner kicks, free kicks, and defensively, he's got to be structured and hard, just like he's proven in the beginning of the playoffs. It's going to be a huge match for him tonight.
From the Kansas City side, I'm looking at Graham Zusi. Look, there is a stat out there that he hasn't had a shot on goal in the playoffs. And to me, that's beyond me how Graham Zusi, as important an attacking player he is for Sporting Kansas City, can't get a shot off. I want to see him be aggressive in this game. This is a final where you need the national team guy, the guy who has that spark of creativity, who has the fitness to get by guys, who has the ability to curl a beautiful ball in the box. You want to see him go at players, send those crosses in, and not be tentative. I don't want to see the back pass. I don't want to see the easy horizontal pass. Graham Zusi needs to take control of this game for Sporting Kansas City.
Simon, you complain that he doesn't have shots on goal. What if he has 4 assists? I mean, the guy's a playmaker. He doesn't need to be shooting on goal for Kansas City to be doing well.
But I haven't seen it from him in these playoffs. It's been very quiet, so much so that I thought there's something physically wrong. I had to ask him, fitness-wise, how are you? He says he hasn't been better all year. But Corey, for me, he hasn't really been impactful. I just think that the big-name player on your team has to have an impact.
Yeah, I agree with you to a certain extent. It's kind of hard sometimes, though, Simon, when you're the target. You're that man that everybody's looking at. So when you're matched up in terms of man marking against you, having 2 against 1, it's hard to be that man to score the goal at all the times. And I think Jason hit it perfectly. If he's the one creating the goals, doing the dirty work, because he's working hard in these games, trying to do as much as he can, that's as much as you could ask for him if he's not scoring the goal itself.
All right, speaking of star players, Corey, I want to ask you this. We spoke about it a little bit earlier. Alvaro Sabrillo coming back from an injury. They say he's been training well for at least a week, if not a little bit more than that. But this cold weather, it is frigid out here. If you're just joining us and you didn't know, it's under 20 degrees. It is cold. The field is hard.
Coldest game in MLS history, by the way.
Coldest game in MLS history, if that tells you something. How is it going to impact Alvaro Sabrillo coming back from a hip flexor injury? Is the cold weather something that could play a factor in a guy who could tighten up out here?
It's a massive factor. This is the worst thing that could be against him. Listen, Sabrillo's not only dealing with a hip flexor. I've had a chat with the guys last time. He's dealing with muscle injuries all season long. Quad, hammies, hip flexor, strained calf, everything. This cold weather is going to affect him in more than one way. But I think the big thing for him is that he has the Robbie Finley to do the hard work. He has Robbie Finley running into those channels, flicking balls onto him, and he's going to be able to get that open space and fall into midfield to pick up balls. When Robbie Finley goes wide to get those balls, he's going to be in on goal and be the poacher that he is during the regular season and maybe nick one away.
But is he going to be in on goal? Is he going to make those hard runs? That's what we have to pay attention to.
Sabrillo won't be the one doing it. That's why they have Robbie Finley, who's going to have to be essential in their attack tonight to do the dirty work, the hard work to get behind the defense, and Sabrillo will be there to get in the tap-ins or lose his defender, fall back, and score that goal.
We hope Sabrillo's in position.
Yeah.
All right, well, Sam, what else is going on out there in social media?
Speaking of the weather, did you guys see Jason Christ running in his T-shirt and shorts pregame?
See it, I tweeted it out. Of course I saw it.
I think that was your tweet, actually, that I'm commenting on. Well, Steinledge T4M wants to know. He said, this is going to be the coldest match in MLS history, MLS Cup. Will it be the coldest match ever on the field between the two teams? Are they going to be frisky and cold in the
So it's like not literally
He's trying
cold.
to be,
Okay, I see what he's saying.
poetic.
Well, look, these teams going back all the way to 2011, these teams don't really like each other. They have history and they have some animosity there. So you do have guys, Kyle Beckerman and Graham Zusi, they play together on the national team. But there's a lot of guys on these teams who don't really like each other. When that whistle blows, I'd expect it to be fairly testy.
But it's been a while since they've really faced off with their best teams. They played once this year, earlier. By the way, it was a very important match that really brought us here in Kansas City, because Sporting Kansas City somehow figured a way to pull away. In the 98th minute, they got a goal from Iko Para after Real Salt Lake had equalized, and they run away winners. And those 2 extra points in stoppage time meant that we are here in Kansas City. But that game was not played with full strength sides. They were not at full strength. So I don't know that bad blood has, there's been a chance for bad blood to develop between these two teams, aside from that preseason incident, which Jason mentioned, which happened all the way back in 2011.
I don't think bad blood's going to play a factor into today. You can't really think about the past and then go into this high quality of a match and let that affect you. Because what's going to happen is yellow cards are going to come out early. You don't want to be that guy to affect your team.
You think they will?
No, I don't think it will. I don't think it will. But I tell you what, the bad weather will affect technically how the players play. Touches will get away from each other, causing bad tackles to happen. That's what's going to happen. But the first 15, 20 minutes, I think the two teams are going to try and suss out themselves in terms of how the style of play is going to come, and then they'll go and attack the game.
The referee for this game, Hilario Grajeda, he's the referee of the year. And from watching all of his games, he's been a very fair referee. I don't think you'll see those quick cards, as Corey's mentioning. And I think he'll give the players a chance to settle down before then laying down the law.
All right, there's going to be a lot to watch for out there on the field. Guys, we should get to your predictions, find out how you think this game is going to play out. We saw in the player roundtable, there were 2 votes for Real Salt Lake, 1 vote for Sporting Kansas City.
And that vote for Kansas City was biased. It wasn't a technical consideration.
Omar Gonzalez has a lot of connections to this Kansas City team, including his Matt Beasler's partner on the U.S. national team. And, of course, Graham Zusi was his roommate in college. So he is going with his heart there. But I want to see how you guys think this game is going to play out. Corey, what's your prediction for what is going to happen out there?
I'm a huge fan of Nick Romano in goal. I'm a huge fan of that block of 5 defensively that they have. Not only 4, Kyle Beckerman sitting in front of them, and their 5 creative attackers that they play with the style. I think Real Salt Lake takes this one 2-1.
I'm going to go with Real Salt Lake as well, but I think them 1-0. I don't think we're going to see many chances here. I think it's going to be tight, calculated. We've seen Kansas City. They've learned how to drop into a shell and not be as daring and take as many risks, and I think we'll see that Kansas City here. I doubt we'll see them be reckless up top, so I think we'll have few scoring opportunities. Salt Lake gets the goal they need. I think they'll be sharper in front of goal when they have the chance. They'll be more dangerous on set pieces, and I think they come out of here 1-0 winners.
I kind of agree with you, Simon. I mean, I think by default, the teams are going to have to play a little bit more, get up and down the field a little more, just to stay in the game, to avoid, tightening up and stuff. I think Real Salt Lake has the better finisher in Alvaro Saborio, and I think if he gets the chances, he is going to make the difference. I have 2-1 for Salt Lake. That makes a clean sweep for the away team. Good thing the people here in the stadium cannot hear us right now. So hopefully the Real Salt Lake fans, thank you. It's too cold to feel that on my head and know it's falling off. Hopefully the fans of Real Salt Lake that are watching our home are happy. We'll see what happens as it plays out here, guys. Want to get just some final thoughts on the whole atmosphere here at Sporting Park and what we're expecting from the crowd here today in this game and what kind of effect they might have.
I think it's going to be interesting. I've been in this stadium before in the big game, and if things don't go your way, there are moments where this crowd, as loud as they can be, they go silent. And I think if Salt Lake can take the crowd out of the game, that takes away a little bit of the energy that Sporting Kansas City usually feeds on when they're here for their running, for their hard pressing. So I think it's a factor of how the crowd reacts to the game.
I remember playing in the baseball stadium when I was playing in MLS against Kansas City.
Just down the road.
And what it's structured to now and the crowd that's behind them now. I think it's definitely going to give them a boost. It's going to give them a level of play just a little bit higher, and it's a final that they're going to want to bring home the cup. but it's not going to be enough. And I think Real Salt Lake takes this one ultimately.
All right, guys. Well, a couple reminders for you guys. Don't forget to check out MLSsoccer.com after the game. We will have all the coverage. We'll be streaming the post-game press conference if you're interested in hearing that. And then as well, we'll have interviews with all the players. We'll have the trophy hoist. We'll have it all. So log on to MLSsoccer.com after the game. Right now, if you want to watch the game, head to ESPN in English in the States, Unimas in Spanish if you want in the States. Of course, in Canada, TSN2 has the game, or RDS in French. Thank you very much for joining us on our presentation of MLSsoccer.com's Playoff Central here at MLS Cup. Enjoy the game, everyone.
Today's officials, fourth official is Ishmael Elfath, assistant referee Paul Scott, assistant referee Bill Ditmar, and the head referee is Aurelien